Hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of Better Know a Highway, which is what I'm calling this, where we take a closer look at the roads and highways that connect America. Today, we'll be looking at Interstate 94, an east-west highway that runs through the upper Midwest of the United States. An interesting route that runs through numerous downtowns of several major cities, suburban towns, as well as vast open plains. So let's go check it out. Real quick though, I just wanted to remind you to please like this video and subscribe to this channel. I really do appreciate it. And you want to stay tuned because we're going to be continuing this series to Better Know a Highway. And we're going to be doing them all, eventually. So you want to subscribe to make sure you stay up to date with that. And yeah, well, with that out of the way, enjoy the ride. As I mentioned earlier, I-94 is an east-west highway in the upper Midwest, stretching from eastern Michigan on the Canadian border to central Montana, a total of 1,555 miles and traversing 7 states. Fun fact, it's actually the longest interstate in the country that has a number designation not divisible by 5. Pretty interesting. Being a northern alternative to I-90, I-94 traverses some of the coldest regions of the country, making winter travel quite treacherous. We'll start in the east, where I-94 begins on the US-Canada border, crossing the St. Clair River on the Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron, Michigan. From here, the highway heads in a southwest direction, paralleling the river and eventually Lake St. Clair before reaching the city of Detroit. As it passes through the downtown area, it gradually turns to the west, approaching the Detroit-Wayne County Airport. I-94 then leaves the urban landscape through the Detroit suburbs and into the rural area of central Michigan, passing through several small towns and cities, the largest of which is Kalamazoo. It cuts a straight line across the state in an almost due west direction, eventually reaching the shore of Lake Michigan on Michigan's west coast, near Benton Harbor, and turning south for a short distance before entering Indiana. Now in Indiana, I-94 resumes its east-west orientation, rounding the southern end of Lake Michigan. It soon crosses and junctions with I-90, a route it will meet again very soon, and continues west into gradually more urban terrain as it enters the southern Chicago suburbs. From here, I-94 quickly enters Illinois. Shortly after crossing the border, I-94 makes a sharp right turn north and heads for Chicago directly. Crossing ever denser areas from suburbs to city, 94 junctions again with I-90, this time forming a 16-mile concurrency that heads further north through the heart of the city and is known as the Kennedy Expressway. In this area, 94 junctions with several routes, such as I-57, I-55, and I-80 after a short overlap. Beyond a slight western turn, 94 completes its concurrency with I-90 just short of O'Hare International Airport, and returns to a northern track through the north side of Chicago and the northern suburbs, soon entering Wisconsin. I-94 spends a long time in Wisconsin. For 348 miles, it crosses the state in a generally southeast to northwest direction. This first section is due north, making a straight shot from the state line to the city of Milwaukee. Cutting directly through the city, 94 makes another abrupt turn, this time to the west, at the junction with I-43 just outside of downtown. Now heading out of Milwaukee, I-94 travels through suburban areas such as Waukesha and eventually reaches the state capital of Madison, in the central part of the state. Staying outside of the city this time, it once again junctions with I-90 for another concurrency, this time much longer, at 93 miles. With both highways now heading northwest, through mostly rural terrain, I-90 eventually splits and heads due west, as 94 keeps the same direction, heading towards the city of Eau Claire and eventually the St. Croix River, where it crosses into Minnesota. I-94 crosses Minnesota for 259 miles, providing direct access to the capital, St. Paul, and the state's largest city, Minneapolis, which it reaches shortly after entering the state. Running through both downtown areas, it has two major junctions with the heavily traveled I-35, a long north-south highway which itself is split into two spurs as it traverses both cities. After crossing the Mississippi River, it soon turns north, past the suburbs of Minneapolis, and then northwest out of the metropolitan area. The rest of I-94's time in Minnesota is through mostly rural areas, the largest city on the route being St. Cloud. It keeps a northwest to southeast direction the entire way until just before leaving the state and making a turn due west to once again cross a river border, this time the Red River into North Dakota. I-94 cuts an almost completely straight path through North Dakota, due east to west for 352 miles. It enters the state's largest city immediately after crossing the border, when it reaches Fargo and passes directly through it, having a major junction with the long north-south running I-29. Once leaving Fargo, 94 enters the vast northern plains, an area dotted with many small lakes, some of which lie directly next to the highway. This area is notorious for its harsh winter travel, with routine whiteout blizzard conditions and heavy winds causing the occasional large traffic pileup, which unfortunately are sometimes fatal. Continuing west, 94 reaches its next major stop, the state capital of Bismarck, in the central part of the state, before heading further west through flat and empty land dotted with small prairie towns. The terrain is interrupted by the Little Missouri River, which 94 crosses shortly before entering its final state, Montana. The highway travels through the eastern third of the state, and although this area is not nearly as mountainous as western Montana, the terrain begins to become more varied, with sizable hills and valleys. I-94 enters such a valley at Glendive, after a short segment directly west of the state border. Once here, 94 parallels the Yellowstone River through the valley in a southwest-northeast orientation, passing through several small towns and small cities along the way, all the while weaving an overall east-west direction into the center of the state. After about 200 miles of travel, I-94 reaches its western terminus, at the quite familiar by now I-90, just outside the city of Billings, Montana, and completing its 1,555-mile run. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you got to know this highway a little better, and I hope you enjoyed as well. Make sure to like and subscribe, because like I said, I'm going to be doing more of these videos in the future, so you want to stay tuned. And like I said last time in the last video, if you got any stories or tidbits or any sort of information on Interstate 94 or any other highway out there, please let me know in the comments below. I really enjoy hearing about that. So yeah, until next time, you know the drill. Enjoy the ride, and up next, Interstate 93. I'll see you then.